Right, so the Irish Daily Mirror I'm going to start with this morning. Get me out of here. And it's both Zaha and David Luiz. He skips training after a Lampard row and demands Arsenal switch. Zaha, he slaps in transfer request to force the Everton move after Toffee's value forward at 100 million. I don't know if Everton have valued Zaha at 100 million. If it's rather that Crystal Palace have. I've seen these know-it-alls play. They're gammy. Great stuff from Patrick Horgan, who obviously was Player of the Month yesterday at the PwC GPA All-Stars, and he was saying he was looking back at the Leinster final, the 1996 Leinster final. I watched the 96 Leinster final on telly last week, and they're gammy. I don't know who they all think they are. Fucking hell. They were all in that situation too, he said. Anthony Daly labelled Cork the flakiest team in the country, and Patrick Horgan's like, I don't know what those lads are thinking. I've looked back, I've seen them play, and they were gammy. So Patrick Horgan should do a lot more media. I don't give a shit. I watched some of those fellas. I don't know who they think they are, talking about the hurling pundits. I don't know, did the hurling pundits have a good year or a bad year? I can't decide. Did they have the fact that this giant debate started about Donald Cusick stuff, where everybody weighed in. The football pundits especially very, very angry about what he'd said. Does that mean that they've had a sensational year?
I think the hurling pundits have had a very similar year to what the soccer pundits have had in the last Premier League season, where they've gone from a place where we valued them as the best, most incisive commentators to a place where they're doing a bit of that, but they're also providing way more entertainment than they've ever provided before.
Who are you talking about from the football?
So, end of last season, when you had Roy Keane and Gary Neville in studio, I think even the Neville aura has worn off a little bit. He's still a very, very good analyst, but I think it's changed a little bit where, I don't know, is it just a couple of more seasons away from the game? Maybe it's just inserting Roy Keane into the studio as we did, wasn't it, the City United game during April, where you have these sensational sound bites as we got, well, I'm not sure of calling that blaming the British for the sweeper thing in hurling as a soundbite, because it went on for about 40 minutes. But you know what I'm trying to say here. It's kind of like bright lights, very dramatic things being said. So if that's what you want from your pundits, and I think the hurling years have had a very, very good year, how much have we actually learned from hurling punditry this year? I'm not so sure.
It was interesting. Patrick Horgan, obviously, a member of the Cork team who suddenly needs a new manager, and Donal Logue has been linked with this. So he's talking about the pundits, and then at the end, it's like the question was obviously asked about Donal Logue and Derek McGrath, and he said they were on about the game evolving. You could sit up there all day and say that was a great game, but why? To be fair to him, Donal Logue tries to dig into it as much as he can, get a bit modern rather than just like, oh, brilliant. The more proper analysis they can do, the better. So eventually at the end he's like, okay, Donal Logue might be my new manager. I'm accepting him from this criticism, which he probably was anyway in the first place, but just to make sure it's there, he's like, my new boss is actually the best one of these people, my potential new boss.
I'm going to move on to the Herald this morning. Mayo must go all out is their headline. It's Michael Murphy who was quoted at the same event yesterday at PwC. You have to hit a big score to beat Dublin, he says. And Stoke are counting on Scott to deliver. So that's Stoke City hoping that Ireland international Scott Hogan can deliver goals after he completed a season-long loan last night. And Romelu ready to do a red runner. Inter make improved offer for Lukaku, and he is in Milan right now.
A reminder, you can listen all day to OTB Sports Radio on offtheball.com and on the Go Loud app. We're live until midnight tonight. It is exactly 7:30 this morning, 7:30. So, that is the back of the Mirror, and they're also confirming that Jason Doherty did his crucial. It looked exactly like that's what it was. The Telegraph. The front page of it is Rebel transfer deadline day. Chelsea's Luiz tries to force move to Arsenal. United fine Lukaku while he eyes escape to Italy, and Zaha demands transfer as Everton make move. Does that fine happen now for Romelu Lukaku? Do you think it or is it like, come on, we all knew what was happening here and you've got your money back, so everybody's happy? Is that just hushed?
Interesting. I don't know. Like, he's still a Manchester United player. They could dangle that over him and say, unless you pay this fine, you're not getting the move, we're not signing off on these papers. Back page of London Times this morning is club turns to spies and fight against racism. So this is Millwall, who are set to use undercover staff to gather evidence on any racist or discriminatory behaviour by their fans. There's been 4 incidents at the club in 13 months. Stewards with body cameras will also be deployed. And Luiz wants shock move to Arsenal. There he is pictured on the back page. David Luiz hoping to force through a dramatic move to Arsenal today after missing training at Chelsea yesterday.
The Racing Post, all about the money today, making it pay, and nurseries tend to follow this season. Which jockeys have earned the most? We'll get to that in 1 second. Latrobe about to score for first time since Irish Derby in Ballyrone. It's a Leopardstown preview. And 20 million Saudi Cup set to be richest race in the world. The world has a new richest race, the Saudi Cup, to be run in Riyadh in February and worth $20 million. The prize money and offer for the 9 furlong contest on dirt will eclipse that of the Dubai World Cup, which is a lot of money for a single race. A lot of money.
Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is Mayo blueprint. You need 220 to beat Dublin, says Murphy. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Mayo, do they have the capacity to put up 220? You need 20 points anyway, he said yesterday. You need to rack up a score against Dublin, and it's the one thing teams haven't been able to do over the last number of years because they were so mad about how to stop Dublin. You've also got a picture there of Andy Boyle going for a ball last night in Dundalk's 1-0 loss in Bratislava, and Best desperate to banish World Cup regrets. So he's driven, Rory Bestis is, by the need to banish the regrets of the last 3 World Cups by leading Ireland to their first semi-final.
So the richest jockey, how much do you think the richest jockey, according to the Racing Post's 10 big earners among the greatest jockeys? It's a Japanese jockey.
How much they earn per year, how much they're worth in total?
Forever is the figure.
25 million quid.
650 million.
And how many, go through the list there?
Yeah, so this is the number 1.
Yeah, but like, I mean...
That's his career earnings.
This is a jockey in Japan who we obviously know nothing about.
Yutaka Take is his name.
And is it all Japanese jockeys here?
Number 2 is an American. There's number 3 is an American. Christophe Lemaire is number 4. He is in Japan as well. He just broke, in 2017, he broke Take's record for the number of wins in a Japanese season, 215. And broke the £31 million sterling barrier in win and place money.
That is ludicrous. Frankie Dettori doesn't make that list, does he?
Frankie Dettori is good for number 23 on the US money list. They don't say how much it would actually be.
Big bucks. Japanese jockey, that's what I should have been.
It's not too late. You're the right size.
I know.
God. We could do the 10,000 hours thing.
Such a good idea. Like, even if you're, all I want to be is like a top 500 Japanese jockey.
Yeah.
I'll still be a multi-millionaire. I'm not in tomorrow. I'm off sick tomorrow.
The deadline day, 17 hours. I mean, okay, we've got to 7:34. We've come up with a better idea. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.
The Irish Times this morning leads with Sucker Punch leaves Dundalk with it all to do, and Lukaku to join Inter after United accept bid. City signed Cancelo from Juventus, while Luiz is in line to join Arsenal. And you've also got Dave Hannigan saying US women's soccer is on a high, but only the rich are allowed to join.
The back of the Daily Star this morning, gunning for exit, and it's David Luiz is the lead there. So Luiz is set to quit Blues and join Tierney in Arsenal switch. So do you know their back 4? Is that a terrible question to ask you without giving you any warning about who will actually play for Arsenal in their back 4?
Well, it's going to be David Luiz and Shkodran Mustafi in the heart of that defence.
Is it going to be Mustafi, really?
Like, I mean, when I say that the banter era may not be over, I really do mean that. And like Kieran Tierney is going to start as well. So you're going to, like, I think that you're going to insert a lot of new players immediately into a team that is going to take quite a while to gel, and this is something that I don't quite understand with the Kieran Tierney move especially. I don't mind the David Luiz thing happening on deadline day, but Kieran Tierney going for 25 million quid in a deal that might have been completed a month ago, I'm not so sure, because I don't know, the back 4 isn't exactly something that was solid for Arsenal last season. You're going to have new signings gelling in quite a few places. You're going to have Nicolas Pepe. He's going to hop into that team as well. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Like, it's going to take a couple of weeks for this to become apparent as to whether or not we're actually in a brand new encouraging era for Arsenal.
Do you know what to expect from the starting 11? Like, do you have an idea of what that will be? So they're playing Newcastle first up, right?
Yeah.
you're not sure.
Give me a second.
Okay. I'll remind you of their last team last season, and we'll see from there. Sorry, more from the Star. Cavan exclusive. Red hand will be too physical for Kerry's young guns. Actually, this is good, Owen, because I want to get your reaction to this. We'll come back to the Arsenal team. Tyrone will lead from the front, says Sean Kavanagh. Owen.
Yeah.
Sean Kavanagh says Tyrone are going to lead from the start. They're going to bully Kerry. They're going to have. It's not that they're going to bully. They're going to be too strong physically for them. Specifically, the big question is whether Kerry's young guns can physically impose themselves and defend like the same young maniacs that graced Croke Park 16 years ago in white. What happened 16 years ago?
I can't remember.
Sean Kavanagh went to Kerry in a league game earlier that year, and he says Darragh O'Shea bullied the entire team, must have caught 15 kickouts. But Tyrone beat Kerry that day. Because, Darragh couldn't do it all on his own.
But the thing was, on that particular day, you've got Tyrone bullying Kerry. Now, Tyrone have obviously changed their mentality quite a bit in recent years, where they're actually happy enough to be bullied themselves a little bit, but they'll just go to ground quite easily. A sack of spuds kind of comes to mind. It's not something that Sean Kavanagh and his team, to be fair to him, ever would have done. But
they were good divers. They were all good divers at the time.
But they can take a little bit better, I think, than the current Tyrone crop, who will be getting to know the turf at Croke Park quite well, you'd imagine, at the weekend. Like, it's quite easy to hold up examples like Tiernan McCann over the years, but really it's actually a disease inside the Tyrone squad. You will see them go down very easy throughout the day, which is hugely ironic given they'll play up the big hard man act before Sunday. If
you were the Kerry management team, would you be in the ear of the referee the whole way before the game saying, that guy's a diver, that guy's a diver, that guy's a diver, here's a little bit of footage we have of him diving, you got to keep an eye on that?
You'd like to think so, but you'd like to also think that they wouldn't actually need that.
Yeah, but you do need it. You can't be like assuming that something's going to happen, because it turns out that the great teams are always in the ear of the referee, just making sure that they're aware of what's going on. Busy game out there, ref, you can't see everything. Did you see this? I'd be doing that.
Actually focusing on that. You're talking about throughout the game. You're talking about throughout.
I'm talking
70
about
minutes.
Like this week, getting one of your friendly pundits. I'm amazed that you haven't got the WhatsApps from the rest of the Kerry Mafia going, here, listen, maybe that's exactly what you're doing. Point out Tiernan McCann's a diver. Again and again.
I don't think anybody needs to point out what Tiernan McCann has done in recent years.
Absolutely.
But he's obviously worse than a diver after what we saw him do against Donegal this year.
Well, so you need to point that out in the week of the game, right?
Why do I need to point that out? I mean, referees are actual human beings who have eyes, who can see that Tyrone have an incredible record of deceiving other officials. If you're getting a game in Croke Park and a knockout game in front of a big crowd, you better be a good referee. I've got no question. I've got no worries about the referee being able to identify that Tyrone have divers amongst their ranks this weekend.
Well, let's wait and see. His point here is who's going to mark Colin McShane. Matchups has been the theme of the week.
So the best matchup that Kerry have managed to nail down all season, I think, was Tom O'Sullivan on Paddy McBrearty. Now, do you put Tom O'Sullivan, not on Paddy McBrearty, on Jamie Brennan? Is that something that they will look to do again, put him on, if he managed to lock down Jamie Brennan, will he be able to lock down Colin McShane? I don't think so. I think you'll actually have Tyke Morley on Colin McShane. Morley was on McBrearty that day, and McBrearty had a pretty good game. Shane Enright, I think, would play out a bit deeper. If Kerry are going to flirt towards the idea of a sweeper at times during the game, then Shane Enright actually being out behind the half back line or sometimes in front of the half back line is something that they've done quite well. So I think that's the way they look to go. I've just got the Arsenal team up from the Angers game in pre-season.
Okay.
So let's go through this as to see who's actually going to start. So they started Martinez in goals. They've gone, Callum Chambers is somebody that's still at Arsenal and may actually start at centre back, but Mustafi started against Angers. I wanted to get this up to see who's actually still fit and who's still playing. When I look at that in the Medley and Monreal along their back four, Mustafi and Monreal will start, I think, and I think they will start the season. Martinez will not start in goal. Byrne Leno will start in goal.
So is the Mustafi meme and comedy thing not so pronounced that he's not a liability every second he plays?
Perhaps maybe he will go with Chambers instead of Mustafi. Maybe he will. So this is what I suspect the starting team will be. So it's going to be Leno, it's going to be Tierney, it's going to be Mustafi, it's going to be David Luiz. If he signs, it's going to be Nacho Monreal. Then you've got a midfield that hasn't changed too much from last season. You've got Torreira, you've got Guendouzi, and you've got another. It could be Granit Xhaka. And then you've got a front three, which is the most exciting part of Arsenal's team right now, in Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Nicolas Pepe.
Where's Bellerin?
Hector Bellerin, if you look at Hector Bellerin and him starting at right back at this point, it could happen. Is it somebody that you just throw in and somebody that you get behind for the rest of the season and perhaps shift Tierney out to left? Can let Tierney play left back? Then that's something you look at as well in terms of instead of Nacho Monreal. So I don't know. This is the big question mark for me with regards to this Arsenal team is obviously Shkodran Mustafi and the big cloud over his head. Do you just say that the reputation that he's managed to develop for himself over the last couple of seasons, particularly last season, is just too much, and that you just start Callum Chambers instead of him alongside David Luiz? Just go with that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if everybody thinks Mustafi's a joke, then maybe you can't build a team around him. The back of the Irish Independent today, Lukaku on the verge of 80 million switch to Inter. That has already happened. Cork's Horgan hits out of criticism from Gammy pundits. Great comments from Patrick Horgan yesterday. It's hard to see Dublin being knocked off their Percy, insists Murphy. I presume they mean Perch, and it's a little typo in the headline. But yeah, Michael Murphy was in the thick of things when Dublin were last defeated in the Championship. Donegal shocked them in the 2014 All-Ireland semi-final 5 years ago, obviously. But he can't see anyone stopping them from reaching 5 in a row next month. It's this level of consistency that they seem to be able to bring to it, and they've added more players to their armoury. It's difficult to see any team beating them. Will teams be competitive? Definitely. In the semi-final or final, it's just difficult to see someone beating them.
Guardian goes with, after the photo, people wrote and said how much it helped. That's Magda Eriksson and Pernille Herder on a World Cup kiss that went viral. And Brazilian bound for Arsenal, David Luiz set to leave Chelsea as transfer deadline looms. I am kind of a bit reticent to actually confirm this is going through. But yeah, so I don't know. The more I actually think about this in my head, the more I'm actually not that confident, the Luiz and Mustafi thing. I'm not sure why I said Monreal there will start. It's obviously going to be Tierney who locked down the Monreal position, and Bellerin, of course, will come in at right back. I've got those two mixed up because it's Arsenal.
Bellerin's injured at the minute and expected to return at the end of next month.
So that's why Callum Chambers is being played at right back. So you'll have Chambers, Mustafi, Luiz, and Tierney. And away with it. Go for the title.
Okay, so the Examiner this morning. Who you calling flaky? Patrick Horgan hits back at Cork's critics. Unprotected Kerry defence crying out for leaders, says Sean O'Sullivan. Tommy Martin says ready for the Premier League, just don't mention the VAR. This is one thing that has not really been mentioned that much, but my prediction is that all next week everybody's going to be talking about VAR because it's coming to the Premier League. James Ryan is turning setbacks into driving forces. This is all the pre-World Cup interviews that everybody's doing, where there's just a kind of sense that we had our blip in the Six Nations. Good to get that out of the way. With plenty of time to spare for the World Cup. It's good for us not to have that in the World Cup, which would be our traditional World Cup cycle, where we have the blip just at the World Cup. This time we've managed to get it out of the way. We've dealt with it all. Everything's going to be fine. We've definitely recovered. We're going all the way to at least a semi-final, having knocked out either the Springboks or the All Blacks. And then, good column today from Ed Collin. Mayo have the players, but do they have the game plan? And this has kind of been the theme all week has been about matchups, and I'm making the point that matchups are great and everything, but if you just get obsessed about all the matchups, then what's your style of play and how do you inflict what you're trying to do on the opposition? Somebody, again, I don't want to misquote here, but a piece of analysis last weekend was the thing about the Dubs is that they don't care what you're doing, they'll just continue away with what their plan is, because their game plan is so well honed that they know exactly what everybody's job is, and irrespective of what you're trying to do to disrupt them, they'll find a way to keep doing it, or they'll react and respond. But if you're just obsessed with stopping players, if you're constantly going, well, so we're going to put X marker on Kilkenny and Y marker on Conor Callaghan and somebody else on, and we're just going to let them all go one-on-one and we'll see what happens. What are you trying to do? What's your game plan? That's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not.
Just playing the game on Dublin's terms.
Yeah, completely, and you are getting a complete obsession with Dublin at that point. I'm actually interested in what has been the game plan that has worked best against Dublin? We all know what the performances that have worked best against Dublin they've been the Mayo performances in recent years.
So, in the papers today, how do you beat Dublin is obviously the question that everybody gets asked these things, and Michael Murphy was like, you got to score 220, and I wonder about that, right? In those games where Mayo scored the 2 own goals, Dublin didn't reach full fluency. Like, it was a good quality defensive performance, and then Dublin also just didn't play to their absolute peak. Like, if Tyrone hadn't conceded the 2 goals in the first half last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, in the All-Ireland final, then Dublin weren't scoring a huge amount. Like, in the game against Meath, what was the score in the game against Meath at half-time? How many points did Dublin score in that first half? Against Meath? 4. Meath scored 4.
Meath scored 4 in the whole game.
4-0 at half-time?
No, Meath scored 1 point in the first half, I think, or was it 1 or 2?
Was it 5-1 or something? Was it 4-1? Do you know what I mean? Dublin will eventually score heavily in the second half, but you can also, like, put in a very defensive performance and keep yourself in the game.
You mean a very good defensive performance, not a very defensive plan?
5-1.
Like, I wouldn't say that the Meath plan was that defensive in that first half. They just had man markers who were getting the better of the Dublin forwards.
So again, that would lead to the good matchups thing.
Yeah, well, matchups are absolutely vital. It's paramount when you come up against this Dublin team, and
you need more, I think, is my point. That, like, you're going to have we're going to punch them in the mouth somehow, and I don't know if that's like running straight at the centre of their defence. I don't know if that's like playing a 3-man full forward line or something. I don't know, but like, obviously greater tactical minds than us are thinking about these questions, so it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Last one for me is the Irish Sun this morning. KT's a gunner, and this is Cluj 1, Celtic 1, but it didn't really matter. Celtic drew in Romania last night as they lost Kieran Tierney to Arsenal in a record-breaking 25 million deal. Slovan Bratislava 1, Dundalk 0. We're still in with a chance. It's Louise Reid, that's the David Louise story. Luke's all done. Romelu Lukaku, Zaha, let me go. 80 million Everton swoop. And that's the story, a headline on Neil Ashton's story. And
got the Irish News as well this morning. Kerry's lack of fear a big threat, says Conor Myler. And Derry appointment delayed until after second club meeting. So a lack of fear is the biggest thing that Kerry will bring to Tyrone this weekend.
Why do you go on?
It's an important thing, isn't it?
Okay, come on.
What it is a big threat, being fearless.
You're so insincere.
It's so insincere. I mean, like, it's.
You've been laughing. You read the headline, you started to laugh.
If Tyrone were playing Antrim, Conor Myler would say, they won't be afraid of us coming up to Croke Park. Pressure's all on us. But I'm sure Kerry will appreciate the compliment.
Okay, fair enough. Here's Gaelic Life. Braced for impact, Conor Myler says he's inspired by memories of Tyrone's famous wins over the Kingdom. Plural, multiple wins in the noughties, as Tyrone, obviously, team of the decade. You should look back at that 55 seconds on YouTube. It's amazing. It's one of the most amazing pieces of footage I've ever seen. Short turnaround gives Tyrone the advantage, McGuigan. So I presume this is Brian McGuigan talking about it. Short turnaround isn't ideal, admits new Kerry boss. So certainly there's a theme developing in Gaelic Life where Kerry are unhappy about the short turnaround. Tyrone are very happy about their turnaround because they managed to rest everybody last week.
Oh, it's a big advantage for sure. Like, there's no way of actually turning that around. And Kerry will know better than any other county this season how having a few weeks off helps you go gung-ho and helps you actually ratchet up that intensity a bit. Even if you're not playing the previous week, it happened to them against Mayo, and Mayo got caught very, very leggy. So it's a massive concern. There's no question about that. I mean,
there's not a way to go, young team, iron sharpens iron, game, let's go. This is exactly what you want. It would have been a boring week in training anyway if they'd been like, in Tyrone's case, it was like E15 over there playing, E15 are obviously being wrapped in cotton wool because you're our superstars, and these guys over here know there's almost no chance of them playing meaningful minutes. Some of them, obviously, there's 2, I think. Tiernan McCann got game time, and Sludden came off the bench. So, but after that, it was basically a sub.
So what's your point? You're saying that it's just more crack and Kerry training this week. What's the point you're trying to make? Like, how is wrapping them in cotton wool going to be not an advantage
for the Kerry lads to play a game?
I would say that
Get up for a game, you get up for a game.
If you offer Peter Keane Tyrone's situation instead of their own situation, they would 100% take Tyrone's situation.
You were talking about Tyrone's hard men going down easy. John Fogarty has been in touch of the Examiner today, and Kerry aren't literate in simulation.
They probably are, yeah. I just didn't talk about Kerry in that answer. Like, I was just talking about Tyrone. Like, you asked me about Tyrone, so I told you about Tyrone.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I do think that if I was involved in the management of a team and I was coming up against Tyrone, I'd be pointing out their ability to go down easy. I'd just be making a big deal.
I think Tyrone are definitely the best at simulation and everybody in the country. If Kerry were better than everybody else at simulation, I would 100%, I hold up my bias here, I would 100% be saying, well, it's up to the referee to spot that. So I'll accept that perhaps there's a double standard.
It is 7:51 this morning. You're watching OTB AM. It's hour one of our 17-hour deadline day bonanza today. You can listen to our coverage all day over at the OTB Sports Radio through offtheball.com or on the Go Loud app, which you can download at the Play Store, or you can also get it on the App Store on iTunes. We're live after 8 o'clock with Conor Harahan, John Duggan, Michael Rice and Kieran Donaghy. Right now, we're talking to Leinster and Irish rugby star Jack Conan, who popped into the studio yesterday for the launch of This Is My Dublin campaign. We're back with Jack straight after these.